And we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Power Hour podcast. And I'm so excited today because I'm here with Keith Atherton, Power Platform architect, previously a traditional software developer, and has had plenty of experiences that I feel like we can all learn from. So thank you so much for doing this, Keith, and sparing us your time. Please feel free to introduce yourself and we'll get cracking on with the questions.
Yeah, thanks, Haldang. Yeah, great. It's a pleasure to be here. Great to be here as well. So my name's Keith Atherton. I'm a Power Platform solution architect. I also get involved with the tech community when I get a chance as well. Always enjoy doing that. So, running a user group called the Power Platform Community High Five with Sarah Jones. Also have a podcast myself as well, On Air in the Cloud, which is not really just Power Platform focused. It's kind of anyone we find the technology is quite interesting. So it could be Microsoft Space. We spoke to a Lego expert recently. It's just anyone where we find it quite interesting. Do speak at events now and again as well. Lucky enough to be a Microsoft MVP, also a Microsoft certified trainer. It's something I enjoy as well, the coaching and the training side of things. And recently started a new job, just again, doubling down on the Power Platform solution architect side of things. And now and again, I might get a chance to use the pro dev background, which you mentioned there as well. So all in all, consulting, it's about 25 years for me now.
Wow, long time. And we'll definitely delve into the nitty gritty of some of what you spoke about there. But I guess on something a bit more recent that you've started, the community work, you said it's the Power Platform High Five community that you started with Sarah Jones. I mean, what was kind of the thought process around that, and what should people expect over the future?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. It's something me and Sarah have talked about for months. I don't know how long, but it's been a really long time. And we've both enjoyed the virtual event space. A bit like this podcast that you're doing now. Anyone in the world can get involved, or they can listen to it. Like, we love the in-person user events, and I go to them when I get a chance. But I do realise, if it's near me, which is, I'm in Scotland, so Edinburgh and Glasgow are probably the two big hubs closest to me. It's great, but I know it doesn't give anyone the chance to go, or if we don't record the event, not everyone gets the opportunity to be part of that. When me and Sarah have been talking for a while about, hey, why don't we start something ourselves, purely virtual? That way we can, once a month is the plan. It's all virtual, so we can get speakers from anywhere in the world. We don't need to look for sponsorship or funding from that side of things as well. Anyone can join in. Anyone can attend, but also we're going to record the events. So we've just done one so far, one in January this year. The next one's going to be in February. We're looking for the first Tuesday of each month, ideally, where commitments allow that. And we're looking to have 2 sessions in each event as well. So around the 45-minute mark for each speaker. But we are looking to get more new speakers involved as well. And if it's something we can help with mentoring and coaching new speakers, or they've not found the confidence yet, or it's the first time trying it, it's something where I've got a little experience with speaking over the last 2 to 3 years, I think it's been now. Then I'd love to share that, with people who want to get involved with that, or maybe want to get involved with the community in other ways. And me and Sarah will just share that experience with them where we can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And shameless plug here, I'll be speaking in the early February event that they've got going on. Super excited for that.
Looking
And
forward to that. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's going to be great. I'm going to be presenting with Sean, so I'm in good hands, I think, when it comes to kind of co-collaborating on that. So I'm super excited for that, Keith, and I appreciate the invite. Um, what would you say to people who are afraid to make their first jump in the community? So I've spoken to a few people who, want to put themselves out there a little bit more, but they have, of course, that initial anxiety of creating content and putting their faces on different platforms. So I guess what would you say to the people who are afraid to make that initial jump?
That's a really good question, actually, because the way I got started for me speaking was a similar thing where I was actually almost daring myself to try a new thing, which was get out there and present. Because for a few years, for a lot of my career, actually, I'd not been involved with a community or any kind of meetups or user groups, really. And it was mostly Microsoft stack, but sometimes would bounce between mobile development, sometimes working with Macs, sometimes working with Oracle and Java and other stacks. So it wasn't always just Microsoft for me. But when I was in the space with Microsoft technology mostly, and went to a couple of user groups, there were some really good presentations, but not many that really grabbed me too much or inspired me. Everyone's got a different style, and there's some really, really good ones out there for sure. And I did see a really good presentation once that did inspire me. I thought, oh, that was really cool. Use some kind of interesting gadgets, hardware with software, and there was a bit of robotics and a bit of web app dev to control it. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. But the presenter had this really good positive energy as well. And it was really interesting to say, oh, he's buzzing about this. Now I'm kind of buzzing. This is cool. Where can this go? Or what if you modded it with this or changed it with that? Or he even used 3D printing to build the robotic arm and things. I was like, oh, there's a nice mix of things here. This is kind of cool. So I think off the back of that one, I thought, well, I enjoyed that a lot. Could I try that? And I thought, I don't know, actually. So I was kind of umming and ahhing. Okay, would I do it? What if I did it once, didn't like it? I'd never do it again. You know, just trying to push myself to do it. And I was aware of a few user groups to do with Azure. So near to me is the Glasgow Azure user group, and there's some other good tech meetups and things up here as well in Scotland. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try that. And again, for me, it was pushing myself out of my comfort zone. But that's where I knew I would grow and learn. But also I might learn that it's not for me, or I'm no good at it, or I don't like it, or whatever. In the end, I did like it. I've done a few more since. But for me, it was really starting. That was the first step. That would be me pushing myself, but maybe not too far. So my first live speaking gig wasn't at a conference in front of 500 people. It was, okay, can I start with a local user group? And there's maybe 10 to 20 people that usually turn up to this one. A few of them are friends. I know them already. I'm probably in safe hands. So, my advice would be to say, what would you want to do first off? Because you're probably going to excel the most at the thing that you would like to do. But what would be a good starting point? And actually, just before that, that live, well, it's a virtual one I did in the end because it was during the pandemic. But what actually came about just before that, by about 1 or 2 weeks, was actually a pre-recorded video for an online event called the Festive Tech Calendar. So again, if someone's got a worry of, I don't want to be in front of a group of people, it's too nerve-wracking, everyone's got a different, sort of tolerance for that, then something maybe pre-recorded, or if you like writing, maybe a blog post. Again, you're not in front of a live audience in quite the same way. So I would say, even if you have to ease yourself in, maybe think about different ways you can contribute towards the community.
Yeah, it's funny you say that actually, because I think about when I kind of started creating content, and it started with blog posts, and then it slowly transitioned into courses, and then it transitioned into the stuff I'm doing now, and more consistent posts. And I feel like without that base, writing and doing things that wasn't showing my face and wasn't necessarily getting me all the way out there, built me a foundation for when I was out there. It made it a bit easier. So yeah, 100%, I'd attain to that myself as well. You have a unique blend of pro code and the traditional Power Platform low code that we all kind of know and love now. So I guess, what was that journey and experience like for you, and what lessons did you take from your traditional kind of software into kind of what you do on your day-to-day now?
Yeah, that's a good point. As you say, in terms of the makeup of this community for Power Platform, I wonder if I'm, maybe in, a smaller proportion with this kind of background. It was interesting, really, because I've mostly been like a general developer, mostly with .NET over the career, or related technologies, lots of SQL Server, lots of on-prem for many years as well. So it really kind of coincided when I was doing the community work of, I wanted to learn cloud skills. I actually started with Azure, learning and using that on the side and doing some presentations on Azure Bot Service and other related things as well. And that really helped me get a job in the space of using cloud skills. and working, with maybe more modern technologies, I would say, which was my aim of, I don't just want to learn these on the side. I actually want to put them into practice as well and kind of stay up to date and play with the new toys, to be quite honest, as well. So I ended up taking a couple of certifications, the couple of community presentations I mentioned there, the pre-record and the live one. And then I did get a bit more attention from recruiters on LinkedIn. And I had been looking for a while anyway, a way of using more modern skills, which I just couldn't do in that current job. So when I did join a new organization, it was a new Microsoft partner, a consultancy, I was able to use those skills, but the first job just so happened was to write some Power Apps. And they were to modernize some legacy tech in there. Again, almost like working with a customer that was almost like the organization I'd just come from. They were looking to modernize their Power Apps. So it was all brand new to me. I learned on the spot. It was, quite a steep learning curve, because I realized it was going to be chargeable client work very, very soon after learning this. But some of the things that really appealed to me early on was that I could actually bring a lot of that background for me, being a consultant, the people skills, the requirements gathering, the methodology, the approach, so even aside from the tech, let's say. But then when I got into the tech as well, it was a bit more, design patterns. Is this reusable? The security, the governance, that side of things as well. I realized that a lot of it did map from that previous experience and carried across and helped that learning curve a lot for me as well. With the added bonus that I really like with the Power Platform, and I know other low-code tools have this as well, is that you can really get to market very, very quickly. And I think with many line of business apps where it's grids and forms, the standard kind of 80, 90, sometimes 100% of many apps that perform admin functions was like, well, I can get this done in hours that would have taken days by building the code from the ground up. So that's why I kind of got passionate about using it. And then since then I've doubled down of, being in the Power Platform space full time, but also being able to leverage that pro code if I need. So I think, again, for anyone who's career switching, or you're first into low code, that's your first technical experience, but you've had an experience in another area or another industry, there might be more transferable skills than you might first realize as well. Even if it's running projects or dealing with people, it can all come in handy. It just so happened, my pro dev is very closely aligned, because at the end of the day, it's still software development primarily for me.
Yeah. And Keith, you've worked in two of the biggest consultancies, not even just in the UK, around the world, pretty much, ANS and Capgemini. What are some, obviously without breaking any confidentiality, what are some lessons you took from learning in those working in those two organizations that you've learned and that you applied to your day-to-day in your work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there's so many, and I think the biggest part that I found with both is really the people. So I always try and be quite a positive person where possible. So even if something doesn't go to plan, or something you thought was correct that you later find out isn't the case, or you meet other people who are higher skilled in different areas than you, I immediately think, oh great, there's a good learning opportunity there, or hey, I've never tried it that way before, let me try this way. And I think I found with both organizations and many other organizations as well is, hey, I really loved how they handled that customer meeting there. I really loved, how they kind of worked with them to get the best outcome. Or, sometimes different ways of wording things on an email or a Teams message, or, a different technical approach. I've had that from many consultants when I've been on the same team. Again, I may have been the architect, but I've sometimes seen really good solutions from consultants where I thought, you know what, that's a great way of approaching that. I thought of 3 different ways. I never thought of that way. I think their way's better. You know what, let's talk it through. Let's go over it. And, in many cases, we've actually gone with the other approach. So I think being open, being a good listener, and also importantly, being adaptable as well. thinking, well, you know what, I never would have done this approach before. Let's try this one. And, you might learn more from going down this different path as well. So I think really the people, and then I won't go through all the 5 Ps and kind of frameworks or anything, but, again, different ways of processes. Some bigger organizations might have more structure to the processes. Again, they can be good and bad, but taking the good from that could be, well, not many things get missed because this is a bit more rigorous. Or, hey, we've got, this particular project might have more QA or testing resources. Oh, that's great. It's more likely going to be a higher quality that is the output at the end of this as well. So I really think, I would advise anyone, I still do this now, is just keep learning. They do this differently here, that's great, let's see if that works. Or, hey, I've tried this other approach in a previous place, could this work here? Let me suggest that, let's see if it's a good fit. So I'd say, again, keep leveraging those transferable skills, your previous experience, and any good ideas you've got yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And Keith, when it comes to, I don't know if you've ever worked with a client and they know they want to adopt something in the Power Platform, but they don't specifically know what, or the use case. What do you run any sessions, or do you have any frameworks specific to that, to finding any problems and aligning that with what can be solved in the Power Platform? Or is that something you kind of do ad hoc and on a dependent level?
Yeah, that's interesting actually. Sometimes I've done that with the pre-sales, excuse me, again, it could be pre-sales or hackathons. We've sometimes gone through the art of the possible. Sometimes that is, I did a hackathon not too long ago, and the customer, they were all from project management backgrounds. None of them are technical, although some had dabbled with Copilot and some other things as well, just for personal productivity and things like this, all within the Office suite of tools as well. Like, oh, this can summarize this 200-page document. That's great. So yeah, I think, sometimes it's showing the art of the possible. Sometimes to, drive it right back to, have you heard of the Power Platform? What is it? What are the capabilities? Sometimes I'll bring up the Microsoft marketing page and like, well, here's the 5 services. Here's what they do, but in plain language. Okay, any questions? How does this fit? And kind of walking through those from a very high level. And then sometimes I found beneficial ad hoc on a project, or again, it could be the pre-sales, or maybe even during a sprint zero, during those discovery workshops, is, again, the customer might think, hey, we want this, but they may not know what is and isn't possible with the Power Platform or related services. So sometimes I'll actually have some demo apps or demo solutions ready that I can then screen share and just show and say, look, I know we talked about Power Apps, but here it is. It's just a web app. It runs in your browser and you can use it internally. Oh, that Power Pages thing. Okay, here's a quick mock-up of a basic one that I've made. Here's your external website, and you can have a portal with self-service and blah, 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 blah. And if I can help relate it to maybe day-to-day things, hey, this is a portal, like if you use Amazon.co.uk to place orders, or use another service, here's how you can get in there, but see your own orders, change your own account information. And if I can keep it relatable, they'll probably come up with the use cases and the opportunities like, oh, this could fit really well for this particular process that we have in our place, or a particular pain point. So sometimes it actually helps bring out more opportunities when we go through that part as well.
Yeah, interesting. And I feel like we all get so excited about the Power Platform, and as we should, it's really exciting technology. I've always wanted to ask you this out of genuine curiosity, because you've had so much experience with traditional software in the future. You've glanced on robotics and Azure and kind of the cloud development side of things as well. Does the Power Platform, very bluntly, have a future? Does it? I mean, Satya has come out and spoke about, SaaS is dying, and we've all seen the scary clip from that podcast. But from what you've seen in your experience with software and technology, are we heading in the right direction with building these skills, or are they going to become obsolete in a few years?
That's a great question, and it's funny because when I was upskilling from maybe more considered legacy tech, which for me was .NET, but more .NET framework with WinForms on-prem, SQL Server on-prem. Yeah, all those skills have gone on for 20 years, over 20 years now, with .NET this is. And I remember being there with the first preview version. I mean, I'm that old. We had the physical box with the CDs in it.
Wow.
That was the preview version.
Yeah.
Since then, and I think this may be the case with other technologies, whether it be Power Platform or others. SQL Server has been around much longer, and it's now evolved to be cloud-based, cloud host options. Within Azure, managed instances and others as well. It's still there. It keeps evolving and growing. And same with .NET. .NET Core, .NET as is. The framework I came from. So I think I can imagine something that's successful, fulfills the need, would maybe pivot and evolve over time. And I think the Power Platform, I believe, is going to have a strong future because, again, it may morph and adapt and change. We see logos and names change, or things be deprecated or merged or absorbed into other things. But I think in some shape or form, even if it's Copilot driven or something like that, there's going to be the need for some kind of UI or interface, or it's not always an app as well for the solution. There's always going to be need for some kind of no code or low code options. And if it does get combined with all these co-pilots, whether it's like the GitHub one, which is absolutely amazing, and many others, and you can just speak and it will just create the code or create the solution. Those lines might get blurred a bit more in future, I think. But I think there'd still be a need for those technical skills and something that the Power Platform fulfills the need for. So I believe it's a good investment. But if you're on for the ride, like you and many others in the community who share those changes, keep up to date with information, we can ride that wave and see where it goes as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
There'll be opportunities, even if it does adapt or change, I think.
Yeah, super interesting. And I guess on that as well, Keith, if these kind of skills that we're having adapt and change, what are you seeing through your experiences that organizations and clients are looking more at more and more and don't have the talent to do it? Like, for example, I was speaking to Franco a few days ago, and he primarily specializes in Power Pages, which is awesome, and to this day is an untapped niche. So are you seeing any trends like that where people can say, okay, I can make a slight pivot to differentiate myself in an area that's being demanded by clients a lot?
Yeah, it's a great way of looking at it as well, isn't it? Can you find that niche in the market, whether it's within the job market or whether you go freelance? And as you say, Franco's a great example of a legend with Power Pages. He's one of the handful of names I would think of when I think of Power Pages, and he's absolutely amazing at what he does. I think it could be something along the lines, like you say, is there an underserved niche? I think co-pilots and AI, Gen AI, is really growing a lot. And I'm seeing with, maybe with other people in the space previously, is a lot of us are still learning what that is. Some people, I've just heard this this term agents or agentification or whatever, or agentic design. Oh, what does that really mean? Some people are kind of, I think, still finding their way with that. So I think because that is quite a big thing, and it permeates through a lot of the Power Platform dynamics and other spaces within the Microsoft and other tech stacks, I think becoming experts in fields where it is trending and doing very well, very successful, probably trying to find a niche in that space, whether again you can combine it with Power Platform, or for me, I combine the pro dev with the low code, but I think, the AI space, there's probably going to be a lot of opportunities to find, a corner of that works really well for you, and you become the expert and, gain those vertical skills in that space.
Yeah. And are there any foundational skills you'd recommend Power Platform developers have more of? Like you said, you have a very good experience with ProCode. Is that something you'd recommend for Power Platform developers to level up, or would you say focus on the technology in front of you rather than extending it so much?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. It's funny because I kind of came from that pro dev
Yeah.
or the pro code background and thought, oh, hey, this is going to come. Well, first I was so keen to learn the low code, but then realized, well, if I keep my hand in with the pro code, I've got this extra string to the bow. I think having the pro code is good, but personally, I don't think it's essential. I think, let's say if you worked in a team, you worked at a consultancy, and you as a functional consultant, I think working in a team is great because you might have a handful of people. You might be, you might have a specialism which is maybe more on the business analysis, but you've got a good general, overview of the Power Platform in general. I've done this before when I've been in a team of like, okay, I've kind of got a good fundamental broad scope across all the services, but if I really need Power Pages, I'd see my Franco in that team for that one because I need to deep dive in that part. If anyone needed a pro code expert, they actually came to me because I was the one who kind of owned that vertical, if you like. And some of us owned more than, some of us might have the same vertical, but different backgrounds or skills with that. My JavaScript is okay. I used to work with someone who was excellent with JavaScript. So there'd be times if I hit a barrier, I know I could go to James and he would be really good with that. So I think if you're working in a team, just a broad based on those main services, and that's handy for me as an architect as well. If I know a bit about things that don't get used quite as commonly as Power Apps, let's say we talked about Power Pages or Copilot Studio, I would like kind of a decent proficient level in that because I don't know what next project is going to come and hit me. I don't want to be surprised if, I've always just ignored that corner. I don't really know. I kind of do want those skills. So I would probably say, a good fundamental coverage, a broad coverage of all of them. But if you do have a chance to get any verticals as well, again, particularly in a space that really interests you, we mentioned Franco, he's got a web design background, so Power Pages is a great fit for him with his graphic design skills too. For me, ProDev is great if I need plugins, PCFs, or JavaScript on a model-driven app, or anything else where I might just need to upskill slightly, but it's in my wheelhouse of the pro code. So yeah. I don't think you need the pro code, but if you do have it, it's an advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And what would you say to the people trying to learn that side of things? Because personally, like a little background on me, when I dabbled in with the Power Platform stuff, I spent a summer learning JavaScript because, my confidence got broken because of a situation that happened. So I decided, screw this stuff. I don't want to learn it anymore. So I just locked myself in like a room for a summer and tried to learn JavaScript. And whilst I'd say I wasn't necessarily successful in my mission to learn JavaScript in the way I wanted, I learned a lot of principles that I could then apply to the Power Platform, programming principles, variables, those sorts of things. So how would you recommend someone levels up those skills? Like, are there any books you'd recommend, any courses, or does it just come with experience, Keith?
Yeah, you know what, and thanks for sharing that as well. I think we've all had those confidence knocks, and again, getting knocked down, building up, and finding areas where, hey, I've got a gap. I really want to upskill, and it sounds great that you made that dedicated effort to try and put it in. But as you say, none of that was lost because you picked up those potentially more valuable design level learnings. So when you look at being a consultant, and especially as an architect as well, you might look at, again, the reusability, the performance, the security, things from a high level. But just knowing of those, you can then say, okay, I'm actually now building the actual Canvas app today, or whatever the case may be. I now need to just dig a bit deeper because my Power Effects was only medium, but I know I really need to learn about this concurrent thing. I remember hearing about that. I actually need it in this case when I need some good performance when the app loads, or so it's sometimes having the awareness and then just having to refresh the memory on that, or hey, I've not used this for a year, let me just go online and try and refresh the skills. Oh, it's been renamed again, great, okay, now let me just kind of refresh my memory and upskill on this thing. But I think in terms of learning, again, it might be like the community question you asked, is what works best for you? So for me, I kind of like Microsoft Learn and things like that when they've got the modules that I'm after to go through those particular topics And then if something grabs my interest, or if I don't quite get it, I'll maybe try and go online and see if there's another learning resource to get hands on. And I found this with some other online course providers as well. Some of them are paid, some have monthly subscriptions. There's many out there, whether it be LinkedIn Learning, which has been a favorite of mine for years. And again, I've had the opportunity to become a LinkedIn Learning instructor for a couple of courses too, but I'd already been a big fan of the platform. And then there's things like Pluralsight, Udemy, and many others as well. So it could be that there's maybe free or affordable options on those spaces, but maybe figuring what's the kind of best learning for me. I like reading and then doing, like getting hands on using it. And there are some good online free resources for JavaScript and things like W3 Schools, and some of the Mozilla development network documentation as well. But yeah, things like W3 Schools was great of, hey, I just need to refresh my HTML and CSS and my JavaScript. Let me go there again, get those fundamentals. And then I'll maybe get a free tool like Visual Studio Code, and then actually play around with a few online tutorials of how do I actually just create a JavaScript file, run it, and kind of just dabble with variables and things and see how does it work. So yeah, for me, getting hands-on is kind of the key one for me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I love what you said about, not having to master everything. You didn't say this specifically, but you implied it. Not having to master everything as you kind of learn it, but just knowing it exists and then being aware of it. So when you do need it, you can kind of pull that out of your memory and then begin to learn it, because as you mentioned, you learn by doing, right? So I guess, big takeaway from me at least, don't try and master everything while you're kind of reading up on it. Be aware of it, know that it exists, and when the time comes and you need it, you can kind of pull that out of your arsenal. So okay, love that. And Keith, we've both built courses. As you've just mentioned, you've become a LinkedIn Learning instructor and you have a couple of courses. It was by far one of the hardest things I've ever done. Like sitting down, recording it, times where I recorded 30 minutes, didn't and forgot to press record. There were audio issues, then editing it. It took me months to put out the 2 courses that I did, maybe even half a year. How do you build a good course? What are some of your principles that you take into your course development?
Yeah, congratulations on your courses. Actually, I know we spoke recently about one of yours that is on my list next. Actually, I'm looking forward to. And I think your experience is similar to mine, where I've done 2 courses, and they were both outside of the day job, but took about 3 months each, something like that. One was much shorter than the other. The first one I probably recorded 3 hours worth, and the output was trimmed down to half an hour in the end. It was made quite lean. And then I think the other one, I probably recorded 4 to 5 hours, and the output was a 3-hour course. And that one was more intense by far. Excuse me. So yeah, the one that was a bit lengthier, the 3-hour one, which again, it's not a mega long course, was actually for Power Platform Developer. It was the PL400 preparation for that course. And again, going back to the Pro Dev, even though it's my background, I actually found that exam difficult. It was a real challenge. The toughest exam I've taken yet, including some of the expert level exams that I've seen. The good thing with the LinkedIn one as well is that LinkedIn, again, I think each provider would work differently, but they actually provided a team that guided you along, a producer that would help you break down the modules that you cover, what they're looking to be covered, and just keeping you right as well, like a good PM would, keeping you on track, like a project manager, like, okay, your output is 1 module per week for writing the scripts, so on and so on and so on. So their approach worked really well, and it's good, again, to work with that team. So I wasn't maybe just all by myself and hoping it was going well, or beating myself up if I missed a deadline. I was able to work with them and get that support. The other good thing that some of these course providers do is they actually share a lot of the learnings of what works well. Hey, if you deliver this trailer with energy, it's going to get more impact. here's snappier ways you can rephrase this that might grab the attention of the learners more to keep them sticking with the course. So honestly, there was a lot I learned from them, more than I expected to, as well as maybe some learnings I've had with presenting at user groups and conferences as well, getting people's attention and ideally trying to get them engaged as well. Now, obviously, a pre-recorded video, there's only so far you can go with that. It's not like, hey, thanks for coming to this user group. Put your hands up if you've used this, or use this, polling app. Just install this app and follow along. It's a bit different with pre-recorded, obviously, but there's still ways of, ask yourself this question: have you used this before? Have you found this challenge before? And really trying to get people who are taking the course, for me, is getting them to ask themselves those questions, and again inspiring them a bit as well, of like, oh, do you know you can use JavaScript to do this, again, client-side scripting and a model-driven app, or do you know you can also use it for web development? It does XYZ too. And if that just sows the seed of a bit of enthusiasm, they might actually just take it upon themselves to learn a bit further and delve deeper in that vertical, a bit like you did during that time, when you spent that time away, for like, now I really want to master this a bit more, spend time with it. So I think for me, it's if the students can ask themselves those questions, maybe kind of guide them towards the answers where possible, so they'll generate their own insights. I found that quite valuable, a valuable learning from the Microsoft Certified Trainer course as well, which again, I learned a lot more from that one than I was expecting to. Really, really good. It's just kind of, trying to kind of go on the journey with them and see if they can develop the learning as much as they can. That's what I try to do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And yeah, I mean, it's something we definitely share together, because as I'll reiterate, it was one of the hardest things I've done. And I did something that, honestly, looking back, it's something I wish I didn't, but I just assumed what people wanted rather than going to them and asking what they wanted. I guess it was a little bit different in your case, because you saw the gap for the PR400. Perhaps LinkedIn Learning approached you, or you approached them and they kind of validated. Was it kind of that sort of process?
Yeah, the way it worked with them, that's a good point. It was a bit of the case of, I met with them first and they shared what their priorities were. So let's say, I think at that time I'd taken all of the Microsoft Fundamental certifications. I was a general developer in that previous job, so I might bounce between M365, mostly hands-on app dev with ProDev, security here, maybe Power Platform there. So I thought, okay, it started to build to 4 to 5 to up to the point, I'll get all 8. So I had all 8 there, and then I started to work on my vertical of the Power Platform and kind of double down on that one. So yeah, when I met with LinkedIn, they said, okay, well, we've, the ones you've got skills in, we've already got courses for this, but we really want this one. We noticed you passed that recently. That looks like a good fit. And we kind of both agreed that was a good fit. And again, PL400, I'm one of those, one of the people who's taken that one, and it was still fresh in my mind as well. I'd not long taken it. So it just ended up being a good fit. But yeah, I believe with some other providers or people who would self-publish their own courses, it may not be aligned to a certification. It may be, I don't know, well-architected framework. It might be a methodology. It might be more high-level principles rather than hands-on with the tech as well. So I think, there'll be opportunities for courses all across the consultancy space, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Keith, you've had a lot of experience within the space in general, as we've discussed. When I came into the space, I was still in university at the time, and for me it was a little bit hard to navigate. Now I'm a little bit wiser. I'm on LinkedIn. I can see all the amazing work people are doing, and I wish I had that when I started. Because when I started, I felt like there was no real roadmap, there was no real navigation. So what advice would you give to that person looking to make that jump from, dabbling in Power Platform, knowing that this is what they want to do, to Power Platform, consultant, developer, architect, etc.?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And yeah, I'm certainly enjoying your, excuse me, yeah. too many meetings, losing my voice. Another part of consultancy as well, right?
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, I'm loving the content that you're putting out there, LinkedIn, the courses, this podcast, so much more that you're doing. And I think really that's a big key to it. For me, I've really only become part of the community and back into the consultancy space in the Microsoft partner space in the last 3 years. So for a lot of my career, it was full stack development. I'd maybe go to the odd tech meetup, but not many. I wouldn't really get out there. I wouldn't really purposefully network with others. I was kind of enjoying the job. It served the need. I like the work-life balance of, I maybe go on LinkedIn now and again, once every week or every couple of weeks to see any news or keep up to date. But I wasn't active, I would say. And I think when you get active, probably LinkedIn is the number one for me. I also do use X, Blue Sky as well, but really then I started to notice what other people were doing, and then again a bit like we was talking about, they're working in the team or learning from others of, oh, I've just seen this really cool thing they've posted on LinkedIn. I never thought of trying that way. Or someone I know posting about, say, the Power Platform COE starter kit. This was as I was learning the Power Platform, thinking, I've never heard of that. Let me look into that. So in many ways, it helped me learn more, again, becoming aware of what was out there, excuse me, but also connecting with others as well, like yourself right now. And sometimes collaborations or opportunities might come, or someone notices that, you've delivered a couple of courses, you're an excellent trainer, how dang, and someone might say, you know what, I really need a trainer for this, it's freelance, are you interested? Or, they might approach you with a full-time offer. You might be looking for a career switch at that time, or it might open your eyes to a career switch. Someone I know saw me do a couple of presentations, then approached me about a developer relations role or a developer advocacy role in the pro-code space. And I actually used the weekend to sort of stop and think of, I've never thought about working full-time in that space before. I've just been the programmer that once a month or so does a speaking session. But it kind of opened my eyes of, is that something I'd want to do? So I think becoming part of the network, meeting others, learning and sharing with others, but also that eye-opening again of, oh yeah, maybe I could use pro code with the low code, or maybe I could do training as a part of my job as well as delivery. So I'd say, yeah, just getting out there and learning, and then maybe finding your path of, do I want to stay hands-on with the tech as a functional consultant, which a friend of mine does, same age as me, same experience in the industry, same amount of years, and he loves it. He loves being hands-on. He's got no aspiration to be an architect or people manager. He loves what he's doing. And then there's other people who do want to climb and maybe become an architect or practice lead or CTO or something above, something higher level, let's say. So I think the more you learn, the more you might be able to evaluate that path for yourself to say, what do I want?
Yeah, 100%. Very insightful, Keith. Thank you. I think community is so important. And when people ask me kind of what they should do to kind of grow their Power Platform skills and grow in their career, really, not their skills so much, as I first push them to study for their PL 900 and, take that learning path and just understand in general what the Power Platform can do together. And not necessarily for the certification, but for the learning experience. And then while you're studying that, post your findings on LinkedIn and show your work. And I think it's so important nowadays for you to be heard within this space, because if I'm being just 100% honest, like, I don't think I'd have the role I have today if it wasn't for the work I did on LinkedIn previously. So I don't think LinkedIn is something that can just give those opportunities to you, but I think it can accelerate that progress for you. So yeah, I definitely say to those people starting out, start learning and then show people what you're learning on LinkedIn, and you will end up getting support if you're consistent enough.
I completely agree, actually. And I think just to add to that really quickly it was the same thing again when I was looking to move into a place where I could use the modern skills, cloud skills, and back in the consulting space. You're right. it was the same for me. It was only when I was sharing about a couple of certification successes online and a couple of presentations that I did online, even though I was just dipping my toe in the water at that point, that then had a recruiter reach out to me to say, we want people with certifications because we're a Microsoft partner, and we want people who are so confident that they can present. So, there may be an understanding that they know their stuff well enough to present it as well, for them to approach me. Now, in the end, I actually did pass the interview and get the job and join them and enjoyed it. But even if I didn't, it just shows it was starting to get me traction and get noticed, and maybe build that personal brand, which again wasn't immediately the plan in the first place. And actually that was for my Azure certifications anyway, which I don't use anywhere near as much as the Power Platform side. But you're right, it was showing you're working, getting your name out there, and then there's many smart people out there, but if other people don't notice that, it might be missed.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is sun literally blasting in my face, so I'm going to turn off my camera and we will be right back, just while I put down the curtain. Oh god, who would have expected sun this time of year, Keith? Oh, right.
Sunshine in January, what's going on?
What is going on? All right, awesome. We are back. Sorry for the delay, guys. And I'm not going to edit it again, so that's going to stay in the episode, because last time I edited it, it got out of sync. So, yeah, I'm not touching the editing again. Okay, awesome. There was something I wanted to dwell on a little bit, because it interested me, and it's not Power Platform related, but I feel like we can take a lot of lessons from it. You ran... Please tell me if I'm wrong, but you ran a game studio that developed mobile games. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. So I added this as back to, again, the kind of not legacy tech, but I found that the job I had at the time, I was a developer, mostly with .NET. It was mostly on-prem. It was interesting work, but I found that most weeks were, same again, was using the same design pattern, was using a similar structure for most apps as well. Again, if we were using Power Apps at that time, they would have been done in the fraction of the time, because we was kind of creating it from the ground up using pro code every single time, and probably 80% of the apps had a very similar look and feel, which kept them intuitive. They could have been model-driven apps. They would have been a perfect fit for the kind of admin functions that they performed. So I was getting a bit, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the polite way of putting this, but I was getting a little bored. I wasn't too inspired because I was doing the same again. But I found that if I push myself technically, which is something that I've always found interesting from the start. So a little background, I actually took a physics degree. I don't have any IT qualifications. Wow. So I did that. But I found my first job and learned on the job with a consultancy. But I always found from the physics degree, I used a little programming for some AI. It was more rule-based AI, not deep learning AI. And I always found like the big algorithms, the big maths, the tricky problems, the interesting part. So anyway, back to when I had this job, I was maybe 10, 12 years into my career as a developer, and I thought, I'm getting a bit tired of this. So because we was often using the similar design pattern again and again, I actually wrote an app to generate a lot of the code to build new apps, just to save me a half to a full day at the start of every project. And again, looking back, that's automation, right? I was kind of creating something to build me this scaffolding, I would call it, which would give me the app. I would feed in the entities. There's no Copilot or AI at this point. This is maybe about 10 years, just over 10 years ago for me now. But it would be a case of, well, here's the entities, so I know what my SQL Server store procedures would look like to do basic CRUD, which is the create, read, update and delete methods. I know how that would look from the .NET WinForms side of view when they call the store procedures, because I'm now armed with that knowledge. I know what parameters will be passed in and what I need to be returned as well. So I kind of built this framework myself, which many web developers might use frameworks to do this, or other tools like object relationship mapping or ORM tools. So I was kind of building some of that from the ground up to keep me interested, but also automate and save some time. And then I realized, well, I'm not really pushing my boundaries of knowledge. I'm not upskilling. I'm not modernizing too much. But one thing I've always enjoyed is the creative side. I've done some painting and illustration over the years. I've been lucky enough, I illustrated a book during the pandemic as well. It was a business book. it's kind of cool seeing your name on Amazon. It's so that was fun, and sold a couple of paintings over the years, and just dabbled with doodling, and used to be in a band and wrote music, and so I thought, hey, maybe I've always loved games as well. Maybe I could bring the technical with the coding for the games in, do my own music or do some of the audio, and do the graphics and the animation as well. So I thought, okay, I'm taking on a few jobs, but maybe combine them all. So I did that for 3 years and had the side project of doing that. As I say, studio, it was mostly me. I did some collaborations with other better artists and better musicians, who were much faster and better than me in that space. But yeah, released at that time, I did release a few, I think it was three casual game apps on the App Store, and three on the Google Play Store as well. And it had some kind of low to modest success of a few tens of thousands of downloads. I became part of a BAFTA program, and a few other things went on. But I think that was the first taster of, if I poured my energy into something, which is now mostly for this tech community space that we're both involved in, and the Power Platform. So it's more aligned to my day job career now. But back then, I realized I was pouring a lot of that energy, but all these other skills I felt that I wasn't using, that I had, into something I had a true passion for, and I had a lot more control over. I would maybe go, not necessarily create a company and do it full time, but just see where it went. And honestly, yeah, the networks I made, the skills I learned, the technical upskilling, which I actually learned so much more and was able to bring into my day job, it kind of just really opened my eyes to, oh, I maybe should have done this sooner, because I'm learning so much. In the end, I decided to wind up the company. I really enjoyed it, but it was very time consuming. Again, particularly because I was maybe not having the best approach of taking multiple jobs on with it, instead of just using experts and building a team. But I'm still in touch with the network I have. I sometimes go to game jams. I take part in events, and I still love doing it just as a side hobby thing now, not as a company. So yeah, I could highly recommend anyone pouring that interest and enthusiasm and passion into a side project or a side learning thing, because you never know where it will take you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found that so interesting, Keith, because honestly, like, I'm a huge video game nerd. I don't get so much time to play them nowadays, unfortunately, but I genuinely love, playing modern games, older games, those sorts of things. And yeah, it was super interesting to me. And it's funny how you describe kind of your attention was almost divided, so you felt like you weren't using the existing skills in your day job in your kind of side project. And everything kind of changed for me when I realized I can't keep building half-built bridges. I need to just build one bridge that takes me all the way. And if I'm okay to imply, I was kind of what I was getting from what you said. You seem very wise, and I say that in the nicest way possible. And you seem like you've had a lot of experiences in life, and it's been suggested to me that I have a segment on this show which is unique to me in this podcast. So it was one I thought about while you were speaking. So this is the first time we're doing it. But what does happiness mean to you, Keith?
Big questions then. You don't want my favourite colour or anything like that?
No, not at all. We're going straight for the happiness.
Meaning of life next, yeah.
Meaning of life.
I think yeah, that it's an important question as well, because for me, I'm in a space I really love. I deal with, I'm part of the tech community. People like yourself, Franco, Sarah, many others that we've been talking about. There's a lot of like-minded people that I just feel I'm kind of in, this is my tribe. I'm in the right place. It's a good fit. I seem to be doing quite well. We're all doing well together. We're helping each other. And it's a very positive, collaborative space on the whole. I feel that works really, really well. And I think that now extends to the day job, where before, again, maybe I had a job where it wasn't maybe the right fit for me because I wasn't getting everything out of it that I thought I could, but also I knew I wasn't being able to pour all my skills into it. Where the last few years I've been able to have jobs where I have done that software delivery. I've been able to be an architect and do the mentoring and coaching of maybe more junior people with maybe a little less experience. And again, that goes back to me loving training and helping people. I've been able to maybe present in those jobs at hackathons or be on the stage or kind of get people's energy up, going back to what we do in the community, some of us who do public speaking. So I kind of found myself in a good space where it's more fulfilling because I'm using more of those skills, the skills I love to use. And again, I think if it's something you love doing and you put the time into it, you're probably going to go the extra mile, or it's going to gel a bit better, or you're probably more likely to excel at it, rather than something you kind of don't want to do. So for me, I think all that's combined to say, in terms of career, I'm happy because a lot of this is fulfilling and it feels a good fit, and I've gone towards what is a good fit, rather than for many years as a .NET developer, and I had some great jobs and met some great people. I was kind of just doing the same again, because I wasn't looking outside of my bubble. I thought, well, I'm a .NET dev. I need a new job because I'm moving. Yeah, I've moved around a few times. I've been about a bit, as Sarah would say. And I was maybe looking, just another same again job, rather than opening my eyes to what's out there. So I think finding what works well for you, whether it's career or outside of your job, in personal life, and just trying to be open to that and say, there was a time last year I was doing too much community work. I could tell my time was stretched. I thought, I just need better time management. It wasn't actually. I needed to step back to say I was taking too much on. So that was affecting my happiness. But when I remedied that, when I listened to myself and my body, or realized, it's kind of affecting sleep or exercise time or whatever else, I know my balance is out of sync. I need to get the sync back, or I feel happier again. It just seemed to harmonize better. So I think finding what works best for you and work towards that and enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what an amazing answer. Sorry to put you on the spot like that. It was like I had to ask now.
I
That's
love
going to
it.
be my thing.
Yes.
Yeah, listen to your body, man. Honestly, listen to your body, listen to your mind. Honestly, your mind can play tricks, but your physical health won't. So if you feel that deteriorating, I feel like a strong lesson I learned very early on in my life, and I'm very grateful to have learnt this. But if you don't have health, you honestly have nothing. Like your job, your career, the money you have in your account, none of it, all of it is meaningless. You would give it all to have your health back. And I can certainly say I've been there. So thank you so much for that, Keith, and I appreciate that.
Great question. I would follow up from that as well and just say,
Yeah,
I totally agree, because I think the physical and mental health are very closely aligned for me, and I'm sure many others as well. So me being aware I've got a sedentary job where I'm sitting at a desk pretty much the whole day. A standing desk may help or whatever, but not being super active, I deliberately make time to be active outside of work. I'm not running marathons at this stage, but I'm keeping in again, trying to get the balance of, it's not all screen time sitting down for 20 hours of the day, or whatever hours people put in. I really want to get that balance. And I think, you hit the nail on the head with what you said there. I love it.
yeah. Thank you, Keith. And yeah, you're absolutely right. And I feel like screen time is such an important thing as well, because for months I felt myself leaving the monitor and my office where I am now, going directly into the living room and staring at another screen, right? Because the TV's there, your phone's there. I feel like we spend all day just looking at screens. I'm surprised my eyes haven't gone after all these years. But yeah,
Same. Yeah.
definitely. Keep an eye on your screen time and go outside, go on a run, go to the gym, just do something physical. I think it really helps me. Okay, amazing. Well, we're coming close to an hour, Keith. I think this has been my longest episode, so thank you for that. I always like to roll out the red carpet at the end, let the people know what you have going on, and all of the links will be in the description so people can check you out.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it's been a pleasure to be on. Thanks for inviting me on, Howdang. It's always good to catch up. And
Always.
yeah, I think we briefly met at Scottish Summit last year as well, didn't we? Very, very
Yes,
quickly. And
exactly.
but yeah, no, thanks so much. If anyone wants to connect with me online, just search for my name. It's pretty unique, Keith Atherton. Again, as we discussed, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Also use X and Blue Sky as well. But yeah, just you can find everything you need from there. And if anyone does want to come and speak or attend our Power Platform Community High Five user group, just please get in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. And tune in for the one in February. If this comes out before that one, I better see you. Anyone watching this episode, or I will come and find you. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Keith. Thank you.
Thanks, Howdang. Take care.
Bye bye. Bye.
Bye.